Hi guys, it's Peggy with I'mLosingItToday.com, and I am so excited to have Dr. Barbara Collins with me today. She came highly recommended from a friend of mine, and she has the Dr. Barbara Collins Midlife Transitions Expert, and I really feel like I can relate to you. She has written a book called 14 Ways to Create an Authentic Life. It's called Power in Midlife and Beyond. And here's a copy of it. We'll give you information on this if you'd be interested in it. But as we're just talking and trying to get to know each other a little bit, we were kind of going through some steps that when you get to that stage in life and you want to do something else, and I feel like I am so there as we're talking.
Yeah, right.
And she was just going to give us some basic tips. And our tip for today is, you had said you need to talk to friends.
Yeah, I talk in my book about the challenge of discovering who you are in midlife and beyond. And I was sharing with you, Peggy, that I came out of corporate, 20 years in corporate life. And I'm kind of unique because I started visioning my life in midlife and beyond in my late 30s. And my friends is that kind of weird, but my mother was senior director of a Livingston Senior Center, and I got to see how people were living after age 60 and 70 and 80. And my mother always said to me, she was a wise lady, she said, look around the room, make sure, Barbara, you have choices when you're ready to retire.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you're living the life you want to live.
Yeah, because we do live a lot longer.
Yes, it's the longevity gap. I was sharing with you, Peggy,
Yeah.
that I'm very concerned about the longevity gap, even though the good news, if God willing, you're living a good, healthy life, research says you can live to be maybe 100.
That is such a common thing now.
Yes.
I see posts all the time now on Facebook where they're celebrating somebody's 101,
very
102
possible.
birthday. My dad's 89.
See?
You know?
It's very possible. So I say to women in my audiences now, if you're going to keep living longer, what are you going to do?
Right.
Now, like you, Peggy, and me, I love to go to lunches with women. I like to go travel movies, but the research says in mental health, it's very important for your brain to be healthy. And if you have a purpose, willingness to, what is it that gets you up in the morning? My premise is the more you know who you are, the more you can discover your strength, so you can have something to do, like you, Peggy. So in my book, my first activity, I really designed myself. I made up all my activities. There was no Oprah then.
Yeah.
I only had me. So I made up these activities. And the first one is talk to old friends. Because the premise is, I believe strongly, that people who know us well, close friends from high school or college.
Or your spouse.
Or your spouse. Observe you better than we can observe ourselves. And what happens as we get older, life kicks in. And we get distracted because you're taking care of others or whatever reason. So meeting with old friends kind of gives you some energy. I'll tell you a funny story in my book. I made up this first activity. So I called all my 7 best buddies from high school. And I said, meet me at, you have to feed people. So we met at a restaurant in New York. We met at Jezebel's. And when we got around, we started laughing. I said, I have a question to ask all of you. I said, could you tell me, what were you doing? What was I doing in high school that came easy to me and looked like I was having fun? Well, they looked at me and said, really? Oh, so Barbara, this is about you. I said, well, kind of, yeah. I was on a mission. Well, Peggy, that came so easy to them. They said, oh, that is so easy. You always love to be in those corny high school plays, and you made us come. You love to sing in the choir, and you love acting. You know what, Peggy? I looked at them. I said, really? They said, how could you forget that? But this step, we were talking about that, this step to meet with old friends, or if you don't like to meet with people, a lot of people, pick your boyfriend, spouse, or one close friend.
Right.
Ask them this question. What do you see me doing that comes easy to me? But the point is, Key, I'm having fun.
Right.
And it's joyful.
Right.
And I feel like I have a passion.
Right.
So women will ask me when I tell their story, they say, okay, Barbara, then what did you do after? Well, that's where the courage comes in. Because that was a big clue.
Right, right.
So, God says, I give you some clues on what you're going to do.
Right.
Okay. So I was kind of nervous because I was writing my book. I was writing, not my book, but some activities. So I said, okay, the next step is I went and took an acting class.
Okay.
And I said, I want to prove to myself, are they right?
Yeah.
Because I knew they were going to call me and say, okay, we gave you all this information, so now what?
What you going to do with it? Yeah.
So, tell me when to stop, because I don't want to make this long story, but it's in my book.
That's fine.
But real quick, I signed up for acting class where my daughter was attending acting school.
Okay.
Freedom Theater, many people know in Philly, is one of the oldest African-American theaters.
Okay.
Now, the funny part of the story is I was taking Monique to acting class for almost 4 years. And every time I saw the director, I said, I'm going to sign up for your class. He said, okay, yeah, we know. No, I'm going to sign. No, really. Okay. So fast forward when she graduated at age 12. In my late 30s, when I'm designing these activities, and my girlfriends told me acting, I called him and I'm signed up for a class. He didn't believe me until I came to his office. And it was so funny. I was so nervous. And I tell women, when you're checking out a clue, you might be fearful, you might need some courage, but at least treat it like it's an experiment. Right. This is just an experiment. I'm going to see if they're right. Right. About me loving acting. Right. But also be careful. There'll be challenges along the way. Oh, yeah. So when Tom said to me, here's your monologue. You have to audition. I said, audition? What? What? I have to audition? He said, Barbara, from your kids going to theater. Yeah. They had to audition. Right. Well, my friends, I rehearsed a monologue. But guess what? What? The challenge was the script. Memorizing all that? Yes. Yeah, that would be my challenge. Oh, my God. I said, I can't memorize all these words. And they were, in the script, there were some words I never say. Right. And it was words of a prostitute, some kind of situation of fear. I said, Tom, I can't say this. Yeah. He said, wait a minute. Your convictions are coming into play. He said, well, do you want to act? He said, you're acting. This is not who you are. And that was the challenge, not the monologue so much. Right. I think it was just a challenge, getting over the hump that this is what acting is. Right. So to make a long story short, I rehearsed with my best girlfriends, and in a restaurant, I did it. They looked at me like, oh my God, that came so easy to you. And it was a love of joy. Right. So to make a long story short, really, I showed up for the audition with 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. The rest is history. Yeah. I loved acting. I still do modeling for TV, print, and acting. Well, and so you listened to your friends. I did. Then you took it one step further, and I think that's what is important. If I have a good friend, and she's always an encouragement to me, and she'll tell me, I've asked her, I said, look, if I'm ever doing anything that's, wrong or... Right. The worst thing I want to do is be a bad testimony to somebody else, too. Of course. And so she will tell me, no, this is what you need. And I do rely a lot on my spouse, because my spouse will see things in me that
I don't really see that in myself.
Sure. Yes.
And so the tip is you need to find out who you are, and the best people to tell you that are the people that you're closest to, the ones that
love you, that like you, support you,
spend the most time with you.
Spend the most time with you.
Exactly.
You will be surprised what they will say. And then what happens when you ask the question, watch what happens. People start joining in.
Yeah.
With the conversation and wondering about them. This is the beginning of finding your authentic self.
Right.
Know your truth, because when you're close to age 60 and over, that's the time that you can really spend being who you are.
Right. Yeah, because you've pretty much at that point raised your kids.
Yes.
And, it's almost like we were married 7 years before we had children.
Right.
But then you're kind of just starting your life out, and your mindset is we're going to have children, we're going to raise children. You don't really have a whole lot of money.
Right.
I don't know if that doesn't change.
Well,
but,
it can happen for a lot of people.
Yeah. So it's a whole different mindset, and then you raise your children, and I think to me it's harder because my kids are all spread out all over, and you still have that love for your children. You want to be around your children, but you also have to look at yourself and say, okay, they're living their life.
You have to. Right. Because when I took in my acting class, my children were in their early 20s.
Right.
I was not retired yet.
Right.
So that meant I had to take a class while working.
Right.
And that's okay, because at least you're planning.
Right.
For the time that so I already had that under my belt when I decided to leave my full-time job.
Right.
It's like a strategy for living authentically when you have the time to be yourself and do what you want to do.
Yeah, and so you started planning. So I know there's a lot of ladies out there. You're at home and, you got young kids and you're in the midst of raising those young kids. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes,
I guess
it really is.
And this, hopefully, if God's willing, you'll get to this stage of life, and then you can go back and listen to this video and realize, okay, let me go back and see what they said. Because and then there's other women out there. You're probably where I am, and just you're looking to understand where you are in life and what your next step in life is going to be. But I think it's great. So I think that's wonderful tip for our first tip.
Yeah, I think so. If you start now thinking about it, you may not be retired yet.
Right.
But at least start thinking about it. If you are retired, I don't like that word. It's a better word. Your next chapter living.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out.
I don't know. Can you retire?
No. And you're trying to figure out, what else can I do?
Right.
Listen to the clues in that first step that your friends might give you. You may find something. And, Tony Robbins says there's no such thing as failure, only results. My first clue I thought was going to be a photographer.
Right.
But when I showed up for the class and they started talking about f-stop and all this, I'm not a good math person. I said, well, that ends that clue. So you never know.
Yeah, and it's like you say, you can't fail at something if you're not doing anything.
Right. Very important.
Yeah.
Very
you
important.
Don't worry about
something.
That. Yeah. Well, guys, this is our first tip. Please stay tuned on Wednesday, and we'll have our tip number 2. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Peggy. This was fun.
Okay.
Thank you.
See ya.